Hello there. Welcome to Penpositive. This is Vinod Narayan. It's been a few days, rather few weeks since I made my last video. And the reason was I was busy with, was kind of having fun with podcasts. And I've been doing daily podcast as the Penpositive podcast. You can check it on Google Podcast, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. So it's more like a daily journal that I do on a daily basis. So there's a topic. I'll probably have some thoughts on a topic and then have some quotes, and I'll end the podcast with a poem. So today, when I recorded, I was having the poem "Your Laughter" by Pablo Neruda. So check out the podcast at the Pen Positive podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, any of the podcasting platforms, and subscribe to the channel. Today, what we're going to do is that I've been reading quite a lot over the past few weeks, and regularly what I do is that when I finish reading, immediately I make a video about the book. But I did not get time. Some of the books that I did read, I made podcasts out of it rather than making the videos. But then I thought, the thing with podcasts and videos are even now the searchability, findability, that's all available on YouTube rather than on podcasts. So it's important that you continue making videos because people still prefer videos even though this is a talking head kind of a video. So the book that I have, it's a fascinating book. It's called Work. It's a 400-page fascinating book by James Suzman. And he takes us to the history of work from Stone Age to the time of robots. And it's a very fascinating book because James Suzman, being an anthropologist, he looks at the history of Bushmen in Namibia. And we always think that people back then would be working more than what we have to work because they did not have dishwashers, they did not have refrigerators, they did not have fans, they did not have cars, they did not have any of those facilities that we today take for granted. And so they would have to do all these work by themselves, which means that they should be spending a lot more time than us at work. But apparently they spent 15 hours in a week compared to the 40 hours that we work. And yes, we say 40 hours, but we still, if someone says that they work for 18 hours, we think, I'm not working, I'm only working 88 hours a day, and he puts 18 hours a day, and we feel somewhat guilty about it. And then that itself is a problem. So with all these facilities to make life easier, we still work for 40 hours. And why is that? So interesting things like that. He takes us through the history, and he starts the book with a chapter that says that to live is to work. And we always have heard people say that you need to work in order to live. In one context, that's right, but in all contexts, it's right. Because if you look at our body, we live because the organs in our body function or work. So all the organs, the cells in our body, everything needs to work in order to keep us alive. And if you really look at work is something that also gives us purpose. But the question that comes to mind as you progress through the book and get to the time of robots, and the thing is, why do we work? Or why do we work hard? What is accomplishment? What is success? And it's not the things that is in the book, but those are the thoughts that came into my mind. See, it says that there are so many people across US and across the world who don't like their job. They're not happy with their job. But still, they go to work because they have to make a living. But it's not just about being happy. I think there's a lot of time that is wasted. And many times people feel unhappy because they think that they're putting a lot of time into work, but it is not getting us the expected results. And I think we talk about lean organization, we talk about lean team, we talk about lean process, and yet we have so much wastages, so much time wasted. We cannot work in our full potential beyond 8 hours, which means it is much less than 8 hours where we would be putting our maximum potential. How is it that maybe I have had experiences where sometimes you put only 5 hours and you've actually garnered more result than putting about 8 or 10 hours. There are good days and bad days. That's a whole different thing. But still, I think we need to really focus on the waste that happens, be it in terms of waste of time and waste of effort. Meetings, right? So the way people attend meetings, people are asked to attend meetings, the way people don't have anything to contribute in the meetings, the way people will attend the meeting and do something else so that they are physically present there but not really adding anything to that or contributing anything to the entire conversation. It is not a surprise if I say that you would find a question asked to a person and the person would say, "Can you repeat that?" Which means the person was actually not in the meeting. He or she was probably thinking about something else. Now that's become a practice, and we're kind of okay with that, right? We want you to be available rather than produce. And that, I think, is a big issue across organizations. It's not about being there 8 hours. It's about being able to produce high quality work maybe in half the time. And if everyone in an organization is able to produce high quality work in half the time, that is in 4 hours a day, do you think the organization would work better? Or do you think that just because they're not putting in 8 hours and they're not spending 8 hours at work, or 10 hours or 12 hours, are you losing something there? Now, these are the questions that came into my mind, but from a book perspective, since it is written by an anthropologist, it's the history of work and how our concept of work changed when we got into agriculture, when we started creating food and storing it, with industrial revolution, with every new technology that has come, there are work that we used to do earlier, things that have become simpler. But that thing has been taken over by something or the other. Now, with robots coming in and a lot of the work being moved into being done by robots, how is the future of work going to be? Those are interesting conversations that is happening throughout the workforce and throughout the industry, and we all have been part of that conversation in one way or the other. But if you really want to look at the future of work by having a deep delve into the history of work from Stone Age to the age of robots, then James Suzman's work is the book that you should read. And I'm not going to give out a lot about the book. It's 400 pages. I put effort to read it, and I want you to put effort to read it, because it's not just about reading the book. It's about the journey that you would take with respect to what work is and what is your relationship with work, and how do you want to see your relationship with work. Subscribe to the channel. I will see you again, not that late, probably in a week's time, with another book. I have a few books that I have finished reading. I will take one by one and I'll reach out to you. So also, don't forget to check out the Penpositive podcast. Some poetry, some thoughts, journals, solo rant. It's not conversations. Podcasts are interesting because when you see video, you can't do anything else. You cannot multitask. But when it is podcast, you can definitely multitask. And I would really like you guys to check out the podcast. It is work in progress. I think it's always going to be work in progress. My whole idea of doing the podcast was to ensure that I can do it in a very natural, authentic way. But sometimes it is even tougher to be authentic. It's easier to fake things. So let's let's get to work. Thank you. Be content and be pen positive and stay safe and be kind.